Laila, a young journalist drawn to the strange and unexplained, stood before the imposing structure. The Grand Blackwood Hotel, a Victorian mansion, now a skeleton against the moonlit sky. Midnight, the witching hour. This was no ordinary assignment. This was a hunt for a legend. The tale of the midnight harpist. Laila pushed through the creaking door, each groan of the hinges like a warning. Musty air, thick with the perfume of time and decay, enveloped her. The silence inside was absolute, broken only by the frantic pounding of her own heart. She was alone. The lobby, once the heart of laughter and music, now stood as a graveyard of forgotten grandeur. The marble floors, once polished to a mirror shine, were dulled by years of neglect. Faded echoes of footsteps and distant conversations seemed to linger in the corners, as if the walls themselves remembered the days when the hotel was alive with guests and celebration. Now, only the ghosts of memory remained, haunting the vast, empty space. Cobwebs draped the once bright chandeliers, their crystals now holding only darkness and dust. The light that once danced across the ceiling was gone, replaced by shadows that seemed to move with a life of their own. Each strand of web was a silent testament to the years that had passed, to the parties and gatherings that would never return. The chandeliers, once the crowning jewels of the lobby, now hung like mournful relics, heavy with the weight of time. Dust lay heavy on the velvet ropes, barring the way to a forgotten ball. The ropes, once plush and vibrant, were now faded and brittle, their color lost beneath layers of neglect. They stood as silent sentinels, guarding the entrance to memories that had long since faded. It was as if the very air around them was thick with the longing for what once was, and the sorrow of what could never be again. The air hung heavy, as if burdened by unseen eyes watching from the shadows. Every breath felt thick, tinged with the scent of old wood and forgotten perfume. The silence was not just the absence of sound, but a presence in itself, an invisible force that pressed in from all sides, making the vast lobby feel both endless and suffocating at the same time. Laila took a hesitant step forward, her footfall echoing unnervingly in the silence. Each movement seemed to disturb the stillness, sending ripples through the thick air. She paused, heart pounding, as if expecting the silence to shatter at any moment. The vastness of the lobby made her feel impossibly small, a lone intruder in a place that belonged to the past. The floorboards groaned beneath her feet, each creak a whispered threat in the oppressive quiet. The sound seemed unnaturally loud, as if the building itself was warning her to turn back. Every step was a negotiation with the unknown, the ancient wood protesting her presence with every shift of her weight. It was as if the hotel resented being disturbed, its secrets jealously guarded beneath layers of dust and decay. She could sense the weight of the building pressing down on her, suffocating her with its unseen history. The grand columns and sweeping staircases, once symbols of opulence, now loomed over her like silent judges. Every shadow seemed to stretch toward her. Every corner held the possibility of something watching, waiting. The grandeur of the architecture only made her feel more isolated, as if she were trespassing in a world that had moved on without her. The silence was no longer empty, it was alive, pulsing with the memories of those who had come before. It wrapped around Laila like a shroud, making every sound, every movement feel significant and dangerous. In that moment, she realized she was not truly alone. The past was here, watching, waiting, and listening in the eerie silence. The flickering beam of her flashlight danced across the walls, revealing faded portraits with eyes that seemed to follow her, each one a window into the hotel's past, each face etched with a silent plea for escape. Or was it a warning? A floorboard creaked behind her. She spun around, her heart leaping into her throat. Nothing. Just the wind whistling through a broken window pane, mimicking a ghostly sigh. But the feeling of being watched intensified, observed by something unseen, lurking in the shadows. She found a room, its door slightly ajar, as if inviting her into secrets long forgotten. The wood creaked softly, echoing memories of footsteps that once crossed its threshold. Shadows danced along the edges, flickering in the dim light that spilled through the gap, hinting at stories waiting to be uncovered. A chill snaked out, caressing her skin with icy fingers, making her shiver despite the stillness of the air. It was not just the cold of an abandoned house, but something deeper. a presence that seemed to brush past her, whispering warnings in a language she could almost understand. The draft carried with it a faint, haunting melody, as if the walls themselves remembered a song from long ago. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of decay, the sweet, cloying odor of death mingling with the mustiness of forgotten years. Dust motes floated lazily in the shafts of sunlight, illuminating the room's slow surrender to time. The wallpaper peeled in long, curling strips, revealing scars beneath, layers of history, pain, and loss. Every surface seemed to hum with the weight of memories, and Laila felt as though she had stepped into a mausoleum of dreams. On a table lay a leather-bound journal, its cover cracked and edges worn smooth by countless hands. A withered rose rested atop it, petals brittle and faded, as if marking the passage of time. The journal's pages, yellowed and fragile, seemed to tremble in the faint breeze, eager to reveal their secrets to anyone brave enough to look. The faded ink spoke of a harpist, a melody that chilled the soul, a presence that haunted the night. There were sketches of a grand harp, its strings drawn taut like nerves, and a photograph of a woman whose eyes seemed to follow Laila from the page. The words described music that could enchant or destroy, notes that lingered in the air long after the last chord had faded, and a performer whose sorrow seeped into every song. There were frantic scribbles, tales of terror, of guests driven mad by the music. The handwriting grew more erratic, sentences breaking off mid-thought, as if the writer had been interrupted by something unseen. Descriptions of sleepless nights, of shadows moving in the corners, and of a melody that refused to be silenced filled the margins. And then, silence. The final pages were torn, the ink smeared as if by trembling hands. The journal ended abruptly, leaving Laila with a growing sense of dread. She closed the book, her hands shaking, and glanced around the room as if expecting the shadows to come alive. The silence pressed in, heavy and suffocating, broken only by the faint echo of that haunting melody in her mind. She wondered if the music still lingered here, waiting for someone to listen. What had happened to the writer? Had they fallen victim to the same darkness that now seemed to fill the room? The empty chair by the desk, the abandoned pen, all suggested a story left unfinished, a life interrupted by forces beyond understanding. Laila felt the weight of their absence, a void that seemed to pull at her soul. Where did the music lead them? Was it a call to madness, or a passage to another world? As Laila stood at the threshold, the darkness beyond the door seemed to beckon her forward, promising answers but demanding a price. The whispers of the past grew louder, urging her to follow, to uncover the truth hidden in the shadows. Drawn by an unseen force, Laila found herself at the entrance to the grand ballroom. Moonlight spilled through the grimy windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the still air. A single high-backed chair sat on the stage, bathed in an ethereal glow. Empty. Waiting. As she stepped inside, the air grew heavy, thick with anticipation. The temperature plummeted, sending a shiver down her spine. The silence was shattered by the soft, mournful strains of a harp, the music seeming to emanate from the very walls themselves. The melody wrapped around her, weaving a tapestry of fear and despair. It was beautiful, haunting, terrifying. Each note resonated deep within her, plucking at the chords of her sanity. Her breath hitched in her throat, her pulse quickening. The music swelled, growing louder, more insistent. The shadows in the ballroom seemed to writhe and twist, taking on monstrous shapes. The temperature dropped further, the air growing thin and icy. Laila felt a presence in the room with her, something cold and malevolent. And then she saw it. A figure, coalescing from the shadows beside the chair. A woman, ethereal and translucent, her fingers moving over the strings of a harp that shimmered in the moonlight. Her eyes, hollow sockets in the spectral light, locked onto Laila. The music reached a crescendo, the sound almost unbearable in its intensity. Laila wanted to scream, to run, but she was rooted to the spot, frozen by terror. The ghostly harpist continued to play, her melody a siren song of despair, drawing Laila deeper into the heart of the haunting. Then, as quickly as it began, the music stopped. The figure flickered, the ghostly light fading. Silence descended once more, heavy and absolute. The shadows retreated, The air lost its chill. Laila stood alone in the ballroom, the silence echoing with the ghost of the music. She stumbled back, her heart pounding against her ribs. The journal's words echoed in her mind. The music, it takes you. But where? And what had become of those it claimed? The silence offered no answers, only an unsettling emptiness. Laila fled the ballroom, her heart pounding in her chest, the echo of her footsteps swallowed by the thick, suffocating silence of the hotel. She barely registered the opulent chandeliers overhead, or the velvet drapes brushing her arms as she ran. All she could think of was escape. Escape from the music, from the shadows, from the chilling presence that seemed to follow her every move. The echoes of the haunting melody clung to her like cobwebs, winding around her mind, refusing to let go. Every note seemed to chase her, growing louder in her memory even as she put more distance between herself and the grand ballroom. She paused, breathless, in a dim corridor, glancing back with wide, terrified eyes, half expecting to see a spectral figure gliding after her. The night outside was thick and impenetrable, swallowing her whole as she stepped beyond the hotel's ornate doors. The city, usually alive with lights and laughter, seemed to hold its breath, as if mourning with her. Laila vanished into the darkness, her silhouette quickly consumed by the fog and shadows, leaving no trace of her frantic escape. Behind her, the grand Blackwood Hotel stood silent and imposing, its windows dark, its secrets locked away behind stone and glass. The once glittering facade now seemed to loom with a sinister presence, as if the building itself was alive, watching, waiting for its next victim. Inside, the grand ballroom was empty once more, the ghostly light casting long, eerie shadows across the polished floor. The music stand and harp stood abandoned, as if the midnight performance had never happened. Yet the air still vibrated with the memory of the melody, a song that refused to die. The legend of the midnight harpist lived on, whispered among the staff and guests who dared to stay the night. Some claimed to hear faint strains of music drifting through the halls at midnight, while others spoke of cold drafts and fleeting shadows that vanished when chased. The hotel grounds, shrouded in mist, seemed to harbor secrets too old and too dark to ever be revealed. Was the ghostly harpist real? A restless spirit bound to the hotel by tragedy and loss? Or was she merely a story, a figment conjured by fearful minds and sleepless nights? The line between reality and legend blurred in the moonlit ballroom, where some swore they saw an ethereal figure at the harp, her hands gliding over invisible strings. Laila's mind raced with questions, her memories a jumble of fear and confusion. Had she truly seen a ghost? Or had her imagination betrayed her in the darkness? Was she the victim of a cruel trick? Or had she glimpsed something beyond the veil of reality, a world where the past never truly dies? Had Laila escaped the fate of those who had heard the music before her? Or had she merely delayed the inevitable? The story spoke of others who had vanished after hearing the midnight melody, their names lost to time, their faces fading from memory. Was she now one of them, destined to wander the night, haunted by a song that would never let her go? The ballroom remained, a silent witness to countless tragedies, its walls lined with faded portraits and scattered sheet music. Each note, each echo, seemed to carry the weight of sorrow and longing, as if the very air mourned for those who had danced and disappeared. The silence held its breath, time itself pausing in the empty lobby where the clock's hands refused to move. Outside, the world continued on, unaware of the mysteries and horrors contained within the hotel's walls. The answer to Laila's fate, to the truth behind the midnight harpist, lingered in the air, forever out of reach, a question that would haunt the Grand Blackwood Hotel for generations to come.